Hello, everyone. This is Melinda Russell with Women's Motorsports Network, and we are recording a podcast today with Carly. Carly and I have been trying to get together for a little while here, and we finally made our schedules work. And so I'm excited to have her on my show. So, Carly, why don't you start by telling us a little bit about yourself so we can get to know you better? Whatever you're willing to share, go ahead.
All right, so I'm 16 years old. I'm from a small town here in Jacksonville, Oregon, or I say Southern Oregon most of the time, but super small town. And this is where I grew up my whole entire life. So I got two other siblings. I got a sister and a brother, Tanner. And then I have two dogs, which they're the best two dogs I've ever had. They are amazing. So yeah, this is kind of just where I grew up, and there's a racetrack very close to here called Southern Oregon Speedway. That's where I started my racing career. It's kind of just where Tanner also started, and then I kind of just followed in his footsteps.
Okay, so he's obviously an older brother.
Yep, he's 19 now.
Okay, and then is your sister older or younger?
Yeah, she is 22.
Okay, so you're the baby of the family.
Yep.
Oh, I am too, but I'm not a baby anymore. But I was the baby of the family, and I had two older sisters. So yeah, that's cool, and it's nice that your racetrack is close.
Yeah, it's only about, I think, 25 minutes away, 20 minutes away. So
yeah, that's nice. You're spoiled like I am because I have racetracks fairly close to me in about three different directions. But so many people don't. And Carly, they drive for hours.
Yeah.
And we're spoiled.
Yeah. No, for sure. Then kind of with our situation, there's a lot of sprint car tracks kind of around us. But when it comes to go-karts, there's only one track, which is up in Roseburg. So it's about an hour and a half away. And then the next one is down in Red Bluff, California. And that's where we run our whole winter season.
Okay. And about how far would that be away?
I think 3 hours.
Oh, wow. Yeah. So see, you do drive.
Yeah.
You do drive quite a ways to do that. So you're 16 years old and you've lived there your whole life, your whole 16 years. So far. So tell me, how did you get started? Apparently your brother started first. You followed in his footsteps, but when did that happen and how did you get started?
All right, so back when Tanner was about 5, one of our friends came up to my dad, because my dad and my mom, they had nothing to do with racing. They didn't race or anything like that. So one of my dad's friends was like, "Hey, John, there's this go-kart for sale. You should get it for Tanner." And then so they kind of thought about it, and then they're like, "All right, we'll do it." So it was just an old QRC kart, and so they bought it, and then Tanner just kind of started racing. And at the time, I was about 2, so obviously I wasn't starting racing yet. But then once I was about 4, then I kind of started to practice a little bit, and then by age 5, I was racing. So, and that, like I said, that just happened out here at our Southern Oregon Speedway racetrack, very local.
Okay. And so at the age of 5, you'd been around racing already for 3 years, even though you hadn't been racing. So it was no big deal. You just thought everybody did it.
Yeah, I thought it was just a normal thing.
Right. Absolutely. And so you started at 5, and then so now you're 16. What have you been doing the last 10 or 11 years?
So for the past at least, I believe 10 years now, 9 years, I just did straight go-karts. And then when I was 14, we had a sprint car. Tanner already got into sprint cars a little bit ahead of me. But we took the sprint car out, and I kind of just started practicing around age 14. And we went up to Cottage Grove, which was about 2 hours away. So we went up there, we did a few practice sessions. I kind of got used to it. And then I believe I ran about 6 or 7 races that season, just because we were kind of busy with Tanner doing his thing. And I was just in the limited class, and he was doing, 360s and stuff like that. So we just kind of took it slow. And then last year, when I was 15, was about my first full season. We had about 20, 25 races on our schedule, and I only ended up doing about 16.
Okay. So Cottage Grove. Now, tell me, or do you know who runs or owns that track? Is it a
Um,
woman?
yes, I believe her name's Heather, I believe.
Yes. So probably, I want to say at least 2 years ago, or maybe longer, I had her on my show.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah, because somebody had told me about that track and that a woman ran it, and so I had her on my podcast. So I'd have to go back and find it, but yeah, I was thinking so because that name sounded familiar. So you still are racing. Where do you race the most then?
So for go-karts, I mainly run at Red Bluff for like the whole winter season. And then sprint cars, we kind of just run all around Oregon. I would say Cottage Grove was one of our main tracks last year, but
Mhm.
I also went down and ran Silver Dollar a few times.
Yeah.
And then we hit Coos Bay, Sunset, Elma up in Washington a little bit. So kind of just a little bit all over. But I would say Cottage Grove was probably my main track last year.
So when you go to these tracks, your brother races the same tracks. So you both go and you both, wherever you're going, you both go and you both race. But
Yes.
you're in different classes. So you haven't had to race against him.
So when I went down to California, we ran the 360s. So
Okay.
any 360 race that I ran, he also ran. But when I ran like the limited 360 class, which is just like the kind of like the start class, the beginner class a little bit, he didn't run because we only had like one motor at the time. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. So how is that racing against your brother?
It's always a blast. Well, it's always so fun. We always get into it, especially in go-karts. There's been many times where we're just, we're so competitive. And especially at Roseburg. Roseburg's always a track that Tanner and I always get into. So, but it's a blast. I love, starting side by side with each other. And,
Yeah.
we always try to not wreck each other, but get into each other a little bit, kind of get into each other's heads. So
there you go. More so into his head, not so much actually into his car.
Yeah.
But have you ever actually wrecked each other?
Yeah, so about a year ago at Roseburg, I was kind of playing some games on my start a little bit, just trying to confuse him and stuff. And I slid up on the start, and I went to go block the bottom because I knew he was going to slide me. And he was there, and he just hooked me, and we both wrecked. But it was just hard racing.
Yeah. And you had to get it out of your system, right? You had
Yeah.
to kind of get that going. And now you probably don't do that quite as much as you used to. But I mean, if you're not going to be competitive with your brother, who are you going to be competitive
Yeah,
with?
right.
Right, for sure. Yeah. So let's talk about, you go to high school, I take it.
Yep.
Yep. What do your friends think about you racing? Are there other kids that go to school with you that race, or are you pretty much the only one?
So all the way up to about 9th grade, I went to high school. I'm doing online school now.
I wondered. Okay.
But yeah, so a lot of the kids actually, they either like rode dirt bikes or, kind of just like rode quads or something. They didn't really know what like I really did.
Uh-huh.
And I wasn't like, I wasn't going to school and kind of bragging about, oh, I won, that, like a typical thing. I just kind of, went to school, minded my own business, kind of did my thing.
Okay.
But then there was some kids that, knew what I did and asked me about it. And some of the teachers would ask me about it. But it was nothing that I really talked much about in school.
Okay. And I kind of wondered if you online school, because a lot of kids that race do online school now, which is way more normal, especially since the pandemic, than it was prior to that. And so a lot of kids that race that I talk to, especially kids in high school, that's what they're doing. So I kind of wondered if you did that.
Yeah.
Yeah. So when you're not racing, or maybe there's not a time that you're not, but if you're not racing, what else do you like to do?
I like riding dirt bikes.
Okay.
It's super fun. I love snowboarding here and there a little bit. We just got like 8 inches of snow. So
I know you're sending it our way.
Yeah.
Yeah. I live in Michigan.
We have like this little play snowboard, and just me and my siblings, we'll just go outside and kind of go sled and have fun and stuff like that. But if I'm not racing, I'm normally just in the shop working. Or my parents have a family business that I work at a little bit here and there every day or every other day of the week.
Okay.
And so, yeah, I don't do too much when I'm not racing.
Okay, because that takes up most of your time, that and school, I'm sure. You know, um, school takes up time even if you're not at the school,
Yep.
right? Right. So, do you have any lucky charms or traditions or anything that you have in your car? You wear a special shirt, anything like that?
I feel like when I was younger, I definitely had like maybe a lucky shirt or like a lucky hat. Um, but I don't think like as of right now I have anything special.
Okay.
We've had some sponsors give us some like lucky charms that like, oh, like, for the past 10 years in our company, this was super special to us. Like, here you go, you guys take it.
Oh,
So
that's
we have that
nice.
hanging up in our RV, but
Okay.
nothing that I can really think of.
Okay. All right. And do you have any kind of a nickname or what do they call you at the racetrack?
Um, I don't have a nickname right now.
Okay.
When I was younger, when I was about from like ages 5 to 9, they would always call me Cutie Pie Carly.
Oh yeah.
But then I like kind of like grew out of that, and I don't really have a nickname right now.
Okay. All right. I can see why they called you that though. So, yeah. So in when you're racing, are you racing like in a series so that you're racing for championship points? Um is is it more just track championship? How's that working?
So yeah, so the go kart we run for a championship down in Red Bluff. So there's 12 points races, and if you run all 12 points races, and it just you get points throughout the night. But obviously, you want to qualify good, run good in your heat race, and make the main.
Yeah.
If you did that for all 12 points races, which is very hard to do, then you'd be probably top 10 in points. And
Okay.
then after 12 points races, they have this big race called the West Coast Nationals, which is 3 days of racing, and it's for like a big gold eagle, which is really cool. So
Oh, that is cool.
that's for go-karts. That's what we do. And then for sprint cars, we don't really run a certain series. We'll
Okay.
run different series, but not full time.
Okay.
It's running a whole series is definitely different, like hard.
Oh yeah.
Because we go to the Midwest and run sometimes.
Yeah.
Like Tanner will go, so it's not like I'm going to be at home running a whole series. So
Right. Right. And some people they're just hell bent. That's what they're going to do, and they want to win that series championship. And I get that. And then the other side of that is that really confines you to where you race, and so I can see the benefits of maybe not running for a championship.
yeah,
Yes, it's cool and it's something that you can brag about and you have the trophy or whatever you get, but the fact that you can go to the Midwest, you can go to California, you can go to Washington or wherever, gives you more flexibility, and probably you're racing against people that are different.
yeah,
So you're not always racing against the same people. And I kind of like the diversity of being able to go to different tracks.
yeah. Well, yeah, that's the fun thing of sprint cars. And when you get to the Midwest, and like if we lived out in the Midwest, I would say that we would probably do a series out there.
Right.
But where we're at, there's not that many series,
Yeah.
and the series kind of just conflict with some of the big races we want to do. They're not all
Yeah.
lined up where you could run a series and then say the series has a break and go hit a big race. There's
Exactly.
not that. So
Right. They're held on the same night.
yep.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So when you go to the Midwest, have you ever been to Knoxville?
Yes.
I got my Knoxville shirt on today. I don't know if you can see it.
Yep. We went to Knoxville 2 years ago for that was Tanner's first time racing. We only did the Knoxville 360 Nationals.
Okay.
And we were supposed to go last year, but I ended up breaking my back in a pretty bad sprint car wreck.
Oh dear.
On July 4th. And so we were just like,
yeah.
By the time, Knoxville 360s and 410s happen, it's only going to be like a month.
It was a month, would have been a month.
And I was just in pain a lot. And so we were like, you know what, we'll scratch it. We'll hit it next year.
Yeah, for sure. So I've been to Knoxville the last 2 years. For that, I have a friend that lives in Pella, and her husband actually does fire safety at the track, and she has a motorsports type business as well. And so, so I've been there. So we were probably there on the same day or whatever, but we didn't know each other at the time. And then I also go to English Creek. Have you heard of English Creek?
Yeah, we were wanting to we wanted to hit one of the go-kart races there one time, but we never
Yeah.
got the chance to.
So they have their nationals on, I want to say like Monday and Tuesday of the same week then as then that weekend is at Knoxville. And so it's out in the middle of nowhere, and there's trucks and cars and stuff just everywhere. They're just all parked everywhere. And so that's a really fun little place to go. And it's actually very well known. It's out in the middle of nowhere. But being by Knoxville, it kind of brings those people in. And so that's always been fun to go and watch the kids that race there. Mostly kids. There are some adults also that race there, but I go to watch the kids mostly. So what's your car color and number, and how did you choose those?
So my car number is 22C, and my sister raced for about 1 year. Tanner broke both of his arms when he was leading the championship, or like going into the championship. And so my sister, we're like, okay, well, like, Carissa, why don't you sub for Tanner? Just to like, why not? We just needed somebody. And she actually ended up winning.
Really?
Yeah. And she's like never raced. She just kind of watched, And so she ended up winning, and Tanner won the championship. And then she was like, all right, I want to race. Well, that only lasted for about a year.
Okay.
And then while that was happening, I was kind of getting into it. And I don't remember my parents really ever asking me if I wanted a number or anything. But I was just like, I guess I kind of just like got the number from her. So yeah, that's my number, 22C.
Okay.
And then my car colors are like yellow, red, and black this year. Okay. But I've done different paint schemes for the go-kart, like blue and black, or like a silver and like shiny blue kind of. But it kind of just switches up every year.
Okay. All right. So you don't have a color that you always have to use, except I kept hearing blue. So that must be your favorite.
Yeah, blue's one of the main colors.
All right. So let's go back. I want to know about what happened when you broke your back, and how did your brother break two arms? He broke both his arms at the same time?
Yeah.
Oh, my God.
So he was at a friend's birthday party, and he was doing the monkey bars, or whatever the rings they are. And my mom's like, all right, Tanner, like, let's go. He's like, hey, one more. And he just fell, and he went to like put his hands down, and they just broke. The good thing is the friend's birthday party he was at, the mom is like, she works in like the ER and stuff. So
okay.
Yeah, they just drove him to the ER, and he wasn't out for too long. It was during the summer when it happened, so it was kind of like a reset for the winter time. And then so my back situation, it happened on July 4th, 2022. And we were at Cottage Grove. I believe it was a 2-day show. And I was leading the race. It was pretty hooked up, kind of right around the bottom. But I found like the grip in the middle, and I kind of just drove around the first like 2 cars or whatever. And so I got the lead probably around lap 9. And I think it was a 30-lap race. And on lap 27, there was 2 lap cars ahead of me. They both ran the bottom, like in the corner. And coming off of the 4, I went to go around them, and I got past one. But the second one, he didn't know I was on the outside of him, and he just hooked a right, and it put me right into the wall. And then I flipped about 75 yards from where I hit, which was right next to the flag stand, and I actually flipped like 30 feet down into like the creek. Like nobody knew that exit was back there. And so I had a pretty hard impact on like my right tire hit a tree, and they think that just like really,
gave you the jar that broke your back.
Yeah, and then I landed down on my head, and it flipped my car over to my side. But I had like tree branches all in my cockpit, and both of my rear tires came off. The fuel cell came off, so there's fuel everywhere. And I didn't even know I was like hurt. I was just focused on, I need to get out of this car, because I kind of knew where I was. I didn't black out or anything. I kind of just closed my eyes a little bit. But my focus was trying to get out of the car, because I knew there was fuel everywhere. I could see the oil dripping. And And I was like, feel, brush, that doesn't go well.
No.
But then it took about like 3 to 4 minutes to get people to me. And I was just like, what the heck? And I'm just, I'm upside down trying to get out of this car that I like, and then I could barely move. And
Yeah.
so, but then people got to me, and it took them a little bit to get me out of the car just because I run a halo on top.
Yeah.
And they had to cut the halo to like lift me out. And
Oh, gosh.
they didn't really have the right tools. And so it was a little bit of a struggle, but then they got me out. The ambulance showed up, and then they took me about 30 minutes to Eugene. And then that's kind of where I lived for the next 4 days.
Wow.
So,
but Carly, really, you were so lucky.
Yeah.
I mean, that sounds crazy to say, but after you just described how far you hit, and you hit a tree and you were upside down, all those, and the fuel.
Yeah.
So many other things
Yeah.
could have gone wrong, and they didn't.
Yeah.
And so I actually broke my back. I passed out and fell and cracked. And so I have, I don't know what you have in your back, but I have 2 rods and 16 screws in my back, and it's fused from T3 at my neck to T11. And so I have a lot of issues with my back. Do you still have issues with your back, or is everything healed?
It gets sore here and there, but for the most part, it's healed. I didn't have to have surgery.
Oh, wow.
It was my T3 and my T4, very compressed. So they called it a compression fracture.
Yeah.
So it was just, I was in a brace for about 3 months, and it was a little bit was compressed on my T2. So they gave me like a neck brace to wear.
Right.
That didn't really last me that long. It was so uncomfortable.
Yeah.
But I wore my back brace for 3 months straight, kind of, and I could take it off to sleep.
Yeah.
But yeah, the whole situation, it was just a bummer, because I knew it was going to take me out of racing, and I knew like the effect it was going to have, because I got in a race car or a go-kart about 3 weeks ago.
Okay.
So that was the first time back, and I didn't have issues or anything like that. Like I said, just a little bit sore, but I kind of expect that.
Right.
But we just recently had a doctor's appointment, and my doctor said I'm healed up, and so
good.
We should be good.
Good. I'm glad to hear that, because as you know, from having that happen, if your back hurts, your whole body hurts.
Yes.
It really does. And people look at you like you're crazy, but that's that really, because it affects your sciatica and your leg and your whatever. So yes. Well, I hope you never have another back issue for sure. So we've talked about probably the worst thing that's ever happened. What's the most memorable good thing that's happened?
I think it would have to be my first sprint car win, just because it was at my hometown track. It was actually out of the Southern Oregon Speedway, and we had family, we had friends, we had fans from followers that just follow me and stuff like that. So I wouldn't say that it was a crazy amount of people for like racing wise. They're like for like competitors and stuff. I think there was only 10 cars or so.
Yeah.
But it was just, I would say that's probably one of the most like memorable things in racing, just because it's just, like I said, in front of my family and my friends. Everyone came out just to watch me like race. And I was like, okay, like, and then I started on the front row, and one lane right around the top, taking rubber. And so it was a blast. I had fun that night.
Yeah.
And
it was the perfect setup.
Yeah.
Yeah. Front row, family, friends, and there you go. Yeah. That's really cool. That's very cool. So when you need to work on your car, or if something has to be fixed, are you a hands-on? Are you learning, or is it? Yeah, you are.
Yeah. So I kind of do a lot of my own, not like setup wise, but when it comes to like stagger, changing gears, cleaning the injectors in the motor, checking spark plugs, I'm kind of like that maintenance person where I'm very hands-on. I want to know what's going on. We have our crew chief, when he does the setup, I'm kind of there watching, trying to figure out what he's doing, why he's doing it.
Yeah.
But yeah, just for the most part, very hands-on. I want to learn. I want to get to know my car, more, because I think that's one of the best things. If you can know your car and know what you did to your car, it'll only help you more out on the racetrack.
Right. Absolutely, for sure. So who does help them too besides you? Who helps you like on race day or get the car ready?
So getting the car ready in the race shop, it's just me, my brother, and my dad.
Okay.
We kind of do it all, and then our crew chief, Brian Crockett, he lives up in Cottage Grove area, so he comes down and he'll help us, and he'll travel to each racetrack, and he kind of does the setup at the racetrack, and then like I said, when we're here at the shop in the garage, it's just Tanner and I, cleaning, maintaining, getting it ready to go, and
Okay.
then my dad helps out as well.
Okay. So what about marketing partners? Do you have anybody that helps you that you'd like to mention?
Yeah, so Ed Boyd Racing, he's helped me for the past about almost 5 years now on the go-kart. He's done all the setup and he takes care of the car during the week. Really good guy, helps me a lot. Earth and Environmental, they help me on the sprint car. They fund my tires and pit passes. And then Truck Shop Motors, they help me back on the go-kart side of life with he rebuilds all my motors and gets them,
Okay.
good to go. And then ABC Powder Coating, they do all my powder coating for me, and they make everything look really good for my first race back.
Yeah.
And then Kevin Share Designs, he designs all my sprint car and go-kart. So.
Okay. You've got a lot of really good partners then.
Yeah.
All the people that you need to look good and run good, both,
Yeah.
for sure. Yeah. So we know that every day is not a great day at the track. Some days things just don't go well. How do you deal with a bad day at the racetrack?
It's definitely frustrating. And I kind of get frustrated a little too easy when like something goes wrong. But we try to get like the problem fixed very quickly, whether it's a blown up motor or I've had my torque tube break on us, whatever it may be. Yeah. Even like the hardest things, changing a rear end, changing a drive shaft, whatever it may be, we kind of just keep our head up and just get right to work. Yeah. Whether, anything breaks, anything goes wrong, whatever it may be, we just try to get the issue fixed and get us back out on the racetrack as fast as we can. But yeah.
Yeah. Because, crying over it or, I mean, it's easy for us girls to cry. Yeah. Sometimes we just have to get it out of our system, but we also, that doesn't really solve anything other than we let that emotion out.
Yeah.
You just have to get back on the horse, as they say. You have to, figure out what's going on and get right back at it. So what's your favorite part of being a race car driver?
Definitely the fans that come out. We've met like the best fans that I've ever met, especially in the Midwest. We have tons of fans out there who will drive like 4 or 5 hours just to come say hi, watch the racing aspect. So I think the fans are probably one of the biggest part of my racing career and like the best thing too. So that, and then being on the track, winning races, of course,
sure.
And just learning.
Yeah. So do you have a special fan that, or do you have it sounds like you have a lot of fans, but do you have a special fan experience or somebody special that is just, that one that stands out above the rest?
I think there's a few fans that actually that are from Knoxville who would bring us certain things. Or paint pictures, and they would send them to us in the mail. So I think the fan mail sometimes that we get of like the photos that get painted or drawn of us, I think those are probably the coolest ones.
Oh yeah, because those are things you can keep forever.
Yeah.
Yeah. So what is something that you'd like to improve on with your driving?
Well, just kind of, I think one of the biggest things to improve on is just kind of getting back to myself when I get back in a sprint car and just kind of, because I wouldn't say I have to relearn everything, but I definitely got to get back to where I was and then to grow from there again. So just kind of improve on, keeping my head up out on the racetrack and just kind of finding the right line. I always kind of mess that up a little bit. I'll run the bottom when I'm probably not supposed to be running the bottom or try to run in the slick when, it's slick. So yeah. Just kind of improve on all of it.
Okay. All right. So you're 16. What are your goals for your racing career?
Just to kind of keep racing every chance I get and kind of grow and maybe hit some of the bigger series as I, get like grow and get bigger. And I think it'd be fun one day to run maybe the All-Star Circuit of Champions.
Yeah.
That series is going to be cool. And then maybe run some All-Star stuff or World of Outlaws stuff
Oh yeah.
here and there. And that takes a lot to even run a full series. But just
Right.
if I could hit one or two races here and there, or
Yeah.
if they come to the West Coast or whatever
Right.
it may be, just kind of get some I need more practice with better competition to kind of
Yeah.
help me learn.
Yeah, that's always good. And you don't go into it, necessarily thinking that you're going to win. You're there to hopefully do your best and
Yeah.
maybe win, but it's also about getting the experience with those drivers for
Mhm.
sure. Yeah. So you're a woman in motorsports. Obviously, that's what our theme is here. Have you ever had, or could you say there's been benefits from being a girl? Not, have there been challenges to being a girl running against all these guys, and or has it just been nope? They accept me for another racer.
Yeah, I think when I was a little bit younger, they were like, "Oh, you're a girl racing, like you're no good, whatever it may be." The comments, whatever.
Right.
But as I grow up and as I keep racing, I definitely get more eyes turned towards me, and I get a lot of people, messaging me like, "Wow, that was such a good race!" Like, there's only so many girls, in racing, and
Right.
you're one of them. That's so cool. Um, but I haven't had a lot of hatred towards me. Um, I think a lot of it's been positive, and I
Good.
think one of the biggest benefits from it is just kind of I would say that a lot of more people kind of want to help me a little bit, and
Okay.
they want to help me learn more is kind of what I'm getting at. So I've learned a lot kind of just off of, being a girl in the motorsports of racing. So
Yeah. And it probably helps that you have a brother
yeah,
that's racing,
yeah,
and so I'm sure if anybody gave you any trouble, he'd be right there to your defense.
yeah.
So
And Tanner's really good with, the social media aspect, YouTube channel, Facebook post, whatever it may be.
okay.
He's pretty good with it, and I'm trying to get better with it. I'm not as much social as I probably should be, but
Okay.
I'm getting there. It's something I work on, but
Yeah. Well, you can only do so much at a time,
yeah,
and so don't feel bad that you can't handle it all because you're still
yeah,
doing school too.
oh yeah,
So that's important. So if a mom came up to you and said, "Hey, my daughter looks up to you," or her son too, whatever, looks up to you, um, is it a good sport for kids to get involved in? What would be your advice?
I would definitely think that it would be a good idea to look into it if your kids are wanting to. The sport of racing is so much fun. Like I've made, you know, really long friendships out of it. I've made friends that we call family now.
Right.
It's one big like community of just friends and family, and especially if you have a local racetrack. I would say, take your kids out to your local racetrack and just let them kind of have some laps and let them go run around in the dirt with the kids
Mhm.
and, roll down the hill out back or whatever
Right.
it may be.
Right.
But yeah, I would just say go for it, try, and don't be like so hard on your kid, if they're just learning. I see a
Right.
lot of parents that are a little bit too hard on their kid.
Yes, I do
And I'm
too.
like, they're just, they're only, 7. They're not, who
Right.
knows that they might not want to do this their whole life. They're just doing it for fun, or
Yeah.
they just want to come to the racetrack to hang out with their friends. So,
Right.
yeah, I
Right.
would just say go for it.
I like that piece of advice because more parents need to hear that. Um, you know, I have 15 grandchildren, so my perspective on how you look at things that your kids are involved in is different than when I maybe was a parent, you
Yeah,
know, and I can sit back now and see that um, you have to let your kids develop their own passions.
yeah,
And sometimes if you shove them into, baseball or softball or gymnastics or whatever, and it's really not their passion, then it becomes work and it's
Mhm.
not fun anymore. And when they're 7 or 10 or 16, it needs to be fun.
Yeah.
I my daughters all played my daughters played basketball. They did cheerleading and things, but I remember one of the basketball coaches was really tough,
Mhm.
and he thought that they should live, eat, and breathe basketball when they were freshmen in high school.
Yeah.
And I get that he wanted to have a winning team, and we did. We had a really good team, but he just pushed and pushed, and I said to him one day, when it stops being fun, then we're done. And he just kind of looked at me, and this was the coach, and he was young.
Yeah.
He was younger than me. And so we have to remind the parents that when it stops being fun, then you're done.
Yeah. And
Because yeah.
I've had a similar situation kind of with, I used to play basketball through my middle school, and my coaches were just kind of pushing me so hard because they thought I could be, a really good basketball player. And I would say I was all right. I was, I can make some shots here and there. But they thought that I was going to go like pro with it. And that was just something that I wasn't wanting to do.
Yeah.
I think basketball is really cool, and I love to go, shoot hoops here and there or whatever. But yeah, they were just pushing me to go pro, and I wasn't. That's not where my head was,
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. So that was really good advice for sure. So you said you don't really use social media that much. Your brother does. Does he post for you as well, or is no?
We kind of so like I have my Facebook page. I have my personal page. Whenever I want to make a post on my racing page, I kind of just like clarify with him, like, does this sound right? Am I using the right words? Or
Okay.
like, oh, I have a new YouTube video coming out. All right, let me make a post about it. Like, you know,
Okay.
so we kind of just make sure we're on the same page with that.
All right.
And then we both have our YouTube channels, so he helps me out with that a little bit. If I can create the video and kind of make it or whatever, he can kind of help me edit it and just kind of make sure it looks good to be, published out into the world.
Okay. All right. Well, that sounds good. It sounds like he's helping with you. So what's the name of your pages so that people can follow you if they want to?
It's just Carly Holmes is just my YouTube channel, and then Carly Holmes Racing is my Facebook page.
Okay.
I post, about my whole racing and stuff on both of them. So
Okay. All right. So Carly Holmes, and you can find her on YouTube and Facebook. What about Instagram or anywhere else? Do you have any other platforms?
Instagram's just Carly Holmes. Instagram's something that I kind of struggle with posting on just because it's kind of a platform that I feel like not a lot of people use. I used it, I feel like, more back like when I was like a little bit younger, like middle school. So I don't really post much on there, but
Okay. All
so just
right.
Facebook and YouTube.
Okay. All right. Sounds good. And so you've been racing this winter, right?
Yeah, I raced about 2 times.
Okay. And so what's your schedule look like coming up or for the summer?
Coming up. So we want to do at least 20 races for the sprint car. I think our first race is either, I think, sometime at the end of April, maybe beginning of
Okay.
May, and it's going to be right up in Douglas County Fairground, which is Roseburg, so about an hour and a half.
Okay.
It's a new track. It used to be asphalt, and now they just changed it to dirt.
Oh,
So
fun.
it's going to be really fun, and I'm actually super excited for that track.
Oh, yeah, that sounds fun. They went from asphalt to dirt, so that's interesting.
Yep.
Yeah, that's awesome. So, Carly, what have I not asked you about that we should have talked about, you should have shared about, anything at all?
I think we hit like the main points about my racing, and I don't think there's much more to it. Just that
Okay.
I'm a girl in motorsports who just wants to live her dream,
Yeah.
which is to race, as much as I can.
Yeah, absolutely. So, oh gosh, and I love talking to girls who love motorsports.
Yeah.
It's just my passion, and sharing their stories, and letting other people know what you're doing, where you're doing it. And we may have somebody listening in that's like, "Oh, I've never, I live in such and such a town, but I've never been to the races.
Yeah.
Maybe I'll go watch Carly race."
Yeah.
And you never know where those fans are going to come
Yeah.
from. Yeah, for sure. Well, I appreciate you taking time. I know you're a busy girl, and hopefully I didn't cut into your homework too
Oh,
much
no,
today.
not at all.
So I appreciate you being on the show. Do you have any last words that you'd like to share?
Thank you for having me. I enjoyed talking to you about racing, and yeah, thank you.
Yeah, you're welcome. And so, Carly, one of the things that I do a live show on social media, which is on Facebook on Wednesday nights tonight at 7 o'clock Eastern
Okay.
time. And so, one of the things that my co-host always said, Brett Timmerman has been my co-host. He's had to take some time off, but one of the things he always says is once we talk to you, and even through StreamYard or Zoom or however it is, you feel like you really get to know the person
Yeah,
better because you're talking like face to face. He
yeah.
always says, we love our racing family. And after we have you on the show, then you're part of our family. So welcome to the family.
Thank you for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Well, you have a good season. Stay in touch, Carly.
I will,
Um, Tag Women's Motorsports Network when you post things, and
for
that way
sure.
I can find you easier
For sure.
amongst all the things that go through my feed. And if I can ever do anything else to help you, or you're going to make a big announcement or whatever, be sure you get a hold of me,
I will.
and have a great season.
Thank you. I really appreciate it.
All right. Thank you.